Claiming that men should be providers is as sexist as claiming that women belong in the kitchen. I think an important point you are overlooking is the history of gender issues that lead to sentiments like this. Women belong in the kitchen is a statement that carries the weight of historically women not being allowed to work many high-paying jobs, women not being allowed to have credit cards, being a stay-at-home mom not just being a social norm, but a relatively strict social restriction on top of all the other historic discriminations women have faced. Men should be breadwinner is essentially proof of a historic power dynamic that was largely established by men over most of history. It's hard to call both statements equally sexist when one is rooted in historic discriminations, and the other is a role that was established in social power, was far more valued, and only recently spoken out against. Considering how men are treated that aren't breadwinners, or who don't work in traditionally masculine fields, I have to disagree. There absolutely is a system of discrimination against men that pushes them into specific roles. I mean, the way men who work in caregiver positions are treated is just tragic. And that value you speak of. It's very clearly benevolent sexism. Men in breadwinner roles are valued in the MCU same way some women are valued. It's an eternally shifting set of goalposts that, in reality, is incredibly dehumanizing and disempowering. The only reason people think this way is because sexism infests academia too. People have difficulty applying any understanding of men that lacks agency or power. It's why the idea of men being raped passes as an oxymoron to so many people. This continues over in academia, in how the same sorts of frameworks applied to women to explain their struggles are just not applied to men. Or how so many studies on gendered issues start and end at how an issue affects women. It's just assumed that men are not affected in the same way, so no one looks, so no evidence is found, so people point to the absence of evidence as evidence of absence. It's actually a very fucked up cycle. In a world where all men are providers and all women are homemakers, that means men control all the resources, have all the freedom, etc., and women stay at the houses they own and keep them clean and stuff and hope that men continue to provide them with a means to survive. The two positions are both sexist, and sexism hurts everybody. But they are wildly different in terms of outcomes, and I think we have to consider that fact. In the world these ideas came from, women were slaves, they had a legal status comparable to children, and men controlled the world. Is going back to that world equally bad for both parties now? The crushing weight pressure men suffer from under the patriarchal framework isn't good for them either. Sexism is bad for everyone. But it is patriarchal, both ideas are patriarchal, and they do not hurt men and women equally. How would you define just as sexist? I agree as far as they are both discriminatory and wrong, and that both can have shitty consequences for both. I'd however argue that belong in the kitchen has an inherent component that the other lacks in terms of consequences. A person not working will lose independency, become dependent on others, and have a worse financial and career situation that will follow them for the rest of their lives even if they escape their situation later. They are also more likely become trapped in a shitty relationship. That's not to say that expected to be a provider will always be better for the individual. E.g. for one individual the provider expectation might result in suicide while another individual is happily a stay-at-home mom. To summarize, both can have serious psychological consequences, both are wrong, but belong in the kitchen has the additional financial component and can as such be argued to be more sexist. Edit. One is also an expectation to be competent while the other is often telling the other person is incompetent. I'd personally generally prefer the former. It's just biology. When women get pregnant, their bodies go through radical changes that many times need someone to help care for them. They aren't able to continue to work an intense schedule with high stress in late pregnancy. It doesn't mean men are destined to work themselves to death, but guys should take extra care both physically and take a greater load of work when their wives are farther in pregnancy. Many women also discover while pregnant that they really want to spend more time with their baby after they are born. This often will necessitate that the other partner takes the greater workload. Affluent couples will often hire a nanny or au pair, But most families just can't afford that kind of luxury. Full disclosure, my house is a single-income home. I have worked an intense work schedule for the past 19 years, usually 12-plus-hour shifts 5x weekly, to support my family. And it is exhausting and challenging.
Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss our next exciting video.